My voice cracked. Ahoy, ahoy! Welcome to a very special, another edition of Quarantined, Ramble On About Movies, but TV bracket edition.
That's
You're
right.
making some crazy noises.
It's a special ramble on rankings.
Ooh, there it is.
I was gonna say hashtag right there.
Well, I like that now because it can. I was trying to think of an R word earlier, and you totally took it from me. Good.
Well,
You're welcome.
you're not supposed to say the R word anymore, Dan.
Rankings.
Year 2020.
Rotten.
That's right.
So, across the internet from me, as always, is clever Eric Muller.
Across the internet for me, as always, is handsome Dan Knight, and we got special guest star.
I don't know where he's gonna pop up. What's gonna happen
Right.
with the video mix?
Can you be to the left or to the right?
I was just debating that as well. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna look to my left and congratulate Eric or Dan, and then look to my right and also congratulate Eric or Dan. Some combination of this will be correct, unless
right.
they're above me, and then I'm just stuck.
The whole thing's messed up.
I don't know
I
how
was
that
just
worked.
getting to the void.
Sure, as we all are here online.
Oof.
So,
I love that void.
well, Nate, how have you been? How's your quarantine been going? Eric and I have been talking pretty regularly, but
I mean, well-ish. My teaching gig has not been that successful as far as transitioning to an online space. So that's been fun. It's been more of a just trying to get anything out of students. But in the meantime, I've been binging a lot of television, which lends itself to such an experience for this.
what a segue.
Yeah, there you go. I'm just trying to do my best to just, stay safe, wash my hands, and not let my mind go places to make me crazy.
He's doing the best. He's doing what we all try.
Yes. Also
furiously masturbating.
I mean,
all the time.
I'm more impressed that right now your whole camera and or body isn't shaking from all the furiousness.
Oh, my leg is shaking.
Oh, well. I thought that's
Remember,
just
we
because you had
can't
to
see
pee.
below
My
the shirt.
third leg.
Nah.
Let's go back to my segue.
Yeah, let's. So if you clicked on this video, then you know what we're doing. It's the rankings special of Community.
Yeah.
So, tiny bit of backstory. I decided to do one for bands. So I went ahead and I made a 128 bracket for, 2000s, mid-aughts, emo, screamo, pop punk, post-hardcore, all that fun stuff. Like my favorite genre. Made it. And Eric goes, I can do that, but with Community.
I did.
How long did that take you, Dan, by the way, to put together that ultimate emo band tournament?
Well, and I still messed it up a little bit. Like I went back and like as I was the following day, I was like, oh, I forgot a couple bands. Oh well, but there are wild cards anyway. That could be a different
play-in
entirely.
games.
Right. It took about a day because I actually did some research too, like maybe 7 or 8 hours.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's how long it took for me. But Eric, you want to tell us a little bit about how you came up with this bracket?
Yeah, so the way
and why I can be so salty about it.
You could be any flavor and you chose salty.
I sure did.
So the way I did
chose
mine
savory.
was I took the critics ratings scores from various critic websites, so Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, IMDb, and others. And I crunched them into numbers, divided it evenly, and then I came out with a score for each one of these episodes. And in case of a tie, I flipped a coin, so that way I could maybe create us a new timeline that isn't so dark. So I made sure I took myself out of this, so that way we could do this episode without me going, well, you already know my pick. It's the one that's ranked above the other one.
Right. So
let's get to Dan's saltiness.
My saltiness.
Do you need like just a brief introduction to what Community is for people?
I mean, I suppose we could. Community is personally my favorite television show of all time. And the ups and downs and trials and tribulations from everything behind the scenes and everything they were able to put out creatively and artistically. I don't know if there's anything tighter written. I don't know if there's anything better acted and executed. You literally got the Russos out of this, and they were kind of coming up and through. And the paintball episodes are one of the things that got them into the MCU. You also got Chris McKenna out of this, who went on to write such things that we all love as the new Jumanjis. And then you're getting Dan Harmon, who's going on and doing Rick and Morty too.
Rick and Morty. I was gonna say Chris McKenna also the Spider-Man movies and the Ant-Man movies.
Well, producing them, sure, but I think he actually wrote. He wrote them all.
He's a credited writer. He's not like the single writer. I'm just saying,
but he's credited.
Further extension into the MCU.
Yes, and
Donald Glover. We got Alison Brie. I mean, the acting too. Yeah.
Yeah, like all. Going through these episodes too, like there are a lot of guest stars that I was happy to revisit. So I guess I'll throw a little bit of my umbrage out now, because like I even went and there were a couple of episodes where I'm like, how they're not on here at all. I guess we could say it now because it's not really spoilers, because we're going to talk about a lot of the rest of them. But like, just so I got really annoyed. G.I. Jeff isn't on this list at all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is a surprise. I didn't actually look at every episode.
There were only a handful of ones that like it really bothered me. That was one, the lawnmower repair and postnatal care, where essentially it's Lawnmower Man but with the Dean, and he kept screaming Jesus wept. That's not on there. Even Geography of Global Conflict, where they do the UN episode. Like I love that episode.
That was number 65. That was.
Hey, Eric, what was the lowest rated episode?
Oh,
from the Gas Leak season, it was the Marine episode, Marine experiment,
Marine biology one.
That's Marine biology, where where they try to get that rich kid to come join.
I gotta say, I did watch that after watching an entire spate of some of the best episodes, and I was like, I'm gonna watch statistically the worst via IMDb ratings, and I don't know, it wasn't maybe as bad as I thought it would be. It still feels like community fan fiction, but I don't think it's probably any worse than any of the other season 4 episodes.
I think it was the new creators like, hey, Chevy Chase, we'll give you an episode where you're the good guy.
Yeah, before we kill you off.
Right.
Well, they didn't kill him off.
No, they did not.
Dan Harmon did when he came back.
Which is that's one of, and I'm sure we'll get into this later on. That's one of my personal beliefs, is that had he had a better understanding creatively of what they were doing with him, he would have stuck around longer, because he has the best character in the first 3 seasons, maybe outside of Abed, but like his arc is fantastic, and the first 3 seasons do not work without his arc.
Well, you need a character like that in an ensemble comedy that's just the asshole. He's the shit stirrer. You need that character.
But that's why it's so interesting once you get going on, because like that's how it starts, but then it shifts kind of quickly to Jeff, and then it stays Jeff for a while, and then it kind of trades off like episode to episode. You don't know who the antagonist or who is going to be, like, not even shit stirring, but like who's going to be the anchor, but not in a good way, like holding everyone down.
And it made sense at that time because it was like a generational divide for him with the rest of the cast. And it allowed you to hit some of those generational divide stereotypes, like his racism, his sexism, things.
Oh, so funny.
That would create so much conflict with the group. You needed a voice like that. And I don't feel like, even though I loved Jonathan Banks, who is essentially the replacement for Chevy Chase in season 5.
Kind of.
They never really found another voice to fill that void once he was gone.
Yes. Well, and that was the other thing where you got his cameo, I think, in the beginning of season 5, where he's a hologram for a little bit.
Yes.
In the commentary, I think Dan Harmon even says that, like, they had buried the hatchet, like, because that was one of the tensions how Dan Harmon got fired initially, was because he wasn't getting along with Chevy Chase. But he said they buried the hatchet, and like when he came on to shoot that cameo, Chevy was like game. He was willing to play. He's like, whenever you want me back, just let me know and I'll be there. So maybe it was I like. There is never a time that they had to change cast, except for maybe losing Donald Glover, that like I was sad about, because it changed it, like it fueled them creatively. Like they had to find a way to keep working. And we'll definitely get into that with one of the later episodes. That being said, Eric, are you going forward, or are we all just going to kind of tag team this and go together with the episodes?
I mean, I can go through the rankings and then, bracket,
Let's just
and then
but I already put the bracket out there. I'll double share it again once we put this episode up, but I think we can just start going through it.
I feel like if you just name 64 episodes and then we go back to the episodes, it's just going to be redundant.
Nah, let's just start it.
But you are the bracket master, so I feel like you should be the introduction into it.
The bracket master.
bracket master. All right, well, so then we got the number 1 overall seed taking on the 64 seed, and that is Modern Warfare taking on Biology 101. So we have the first paintball episode in season 1 taking on the season 3
I think
debut.
it's the premiere, right? Yeah.
Premiere
Yes.
episode. Yep.
Which is also our introduction to Michael, what's his last name? The biology teacher. I want to say Michael K. Smith, but that's wrong.
Have a list of like the cast or something in front
of
us.
I can pull it up. It won't take long.
Only there's a resource that we can just type in questions.
Was this the first time that Abed talked about his ironic love of Cougar Town or Cougarton Abbey?
Yes. Michael K. Williams. Oh. That's who we were thinking of. Michael K. Williams.
Oh,
yes, the ex-con who becomes the biology professor.
Yes. Professor Kane. And if it's the introduction of, I don't know if it's also the introduction of Inspector Spacetime, because that might be where, because they talk about, this isn't the talking about Cougar Town, because that happens in a different episode where they say Abed took to deception, or no, Annie took to deception like Abed took to Cougar Town, and it's kind of a throwaway line, because it's the episode where they go through and they pull all the guns, and it's the conspiracy theory episode, which we'll get to later. But this is the introduction of Inspector Spacetime. So I know what you're saying there. As far as Biology 101. So there are parts of this episode that I really like. And I mean, I think, do we have to kind of take a vote? I think we're all saying Modern Warfare is going to be the one going through, which is why I'm spending a lot of time on Biology 101.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to go Modern Warfare on this one, too. As much as I like Biology 101, Modern Warfare is probably the best of the paintball trilogy.
It's to be fair, the number 1 seed. I don't think the 64th seeded episode is going to take it out.
That's the last little thing that I want to say about this episode is great because it's the first episode you get back from the second or the third paintball technically, but the 2-part of a paintball where you had Chevy Chase walk away, and then he comes back and he's like calm and centered and he's no longer the villain, and it flips really quick to Jeff being the villain, where you have him have like that weird trippy out of experience thing, and then he like crawls through the vents and he's covered in dust and he attacks them with a fire axe. Like, the fact that you're able, if you say that out of context to somebody, you'd be like, hey, watch this comedy where the main character attacks the rest of the characters with a fire axe into their table. Who's going to kill it? Where it lives? Like, explain that to somebody in a vacuum and have it make sense. And it's funny.
It also has a great musical intro.
It's true. So I think we'll probably talk about Modern Warfare more when it's in a more competitive matchup.
Yes.
And just go on from there.
All right. The next matchup in the bracket is Basic Rocket Science taking on Regional Holiday Music. Basic Rocket Science is the second episode. It's from the second season where had the KFC space simulator, and then Regional Holiday Music is the episode from the third season where they're making fun of Glee. Officially.
Yeah, as opposed to from the clip show, which is something else we'll talk about.
Yep.
But Basic Rocket Science. There's so many good jokes in there. It's like, Troy is giving me life.
This is a literal toss-up from the seeding standpoint. It's 32 versus 33.
Yeah, that's right. And, I love Basic Rocket Science, especially like certain homage to Apollo 13.
That was great.
Voltron, Power Rangers, all that, where they're like, ready.
Chicken, yeah.
I gotta go with Rocket Science because of all the things that you guys are citing, and it has like the great strong set pieces, but also I feel like the hatred that this show has had for Glee works better as like asides than developing like an entire episode for, because it's kind of the same joke.
I will disagree only because I loved regional holiday music. It's definitely one of my favorite episodes, and where they talk about like I think Taran Killam was the perfect person to cast because you get equal parts crazy and like manic happy at the same time, where you even have that like one little transition where he's like, "Thank you, Abed. Thank you, Abed." And it's like, oh, it's like a little chilling, but then the jokes on top of it are even funnier. Like, I'm surprised. Did you catch the Invasion of the Body Snatchers homage in this,
Oh
Nate?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, just the little things that like that, and like because they've been toying, and I think they had to have been like slotted against Glee at some point, like in their actual airtime, because that's the only
Right.
reason that they would have so much hate
I
for them.
think Glee probably was on Thursday at some point. You have to go back to a time when like the actual days that a show aired mattered.
Yes. But I mean, I'm trying like everything, like the fact that like Taran Killam says, or there can be another bus crash. Like Abed realizes what's happening, so he tricks Britta into singing, even though she's terrible at it. Britta would be adorable. Okay, so it's Annie or Shirley. Like, I go. So I guess it's going to Eric because I go regional holiday music all day.
Oh, okay. I gotta tie break this one.
That's why
As
there's
much as I
three.
love, yep. As much as I love a lot of the music from the regional holiday music, Baby Boomer Santas, Help Me Understand Christmas, and the Glee
An
song,
actual
which was
Childish
my
Gambino rap.
ringtone for a while. I'm gonna go with Basic Rocket Science, guys.
Ooh.
It's more rewatchability, and also because I've been watching a lot of these, I still laugh a lot during Basic Rocket Science.
I actually found somebody who like made all the songs from the regional holiday music into MP3s, and I downloaded those. I have them on my phone.
Nice.
Are they ringtones yet?
The Ramble On About Movies theme song is the ringtone.
But
My
you can
ringtone is from a
designate
community episode.
you can designate different ringtones to different people.
I could, but I also very rarely have my phone off of mute.
That is also true. All right, our next
Howard's
matchup
response.
is the number 15 seed taking on the number 49 seed. We have cooperative choreography taking on Intro to Political Science. This is probably the toughest one we've had so far.
I didn't think it was that difficult. I like Intro. Like I had a few issues when I was doing this on my own. Actually, no, I think I take that back. It was a little more difficult than I'm giving it credit for.
This one is not difficult for me, just because calligraphy was one of the ones I watched on my own because I thought it should have been higher seated. And I do think it is one of the best episodes, just as far as like the group dynamic and how combative they are. It's a bottle episode. We're doing a bottle episode, but how that unleashes, it's just line for line, just the things that it unleashes with each one of the characters and the histories that it opens up to them. It has some of the best lines of any of the episodes. So I'm all in on calligraphy.
Do you want to talk poli-sci, Eric?
Yeah, one of the reasons I love the Intro to Political Science, it has probably the best introduction. You know, the opening start where they're all sitting at the table and they all do the like Jeff's has the notches for every time his abs are mentioned, and then which one Ovid has for his notch. Oh, Winger's wings. Every time Jeff makes a joke, and then Troy just has one where he's just like notches.
Yeah. That's one of those things we could get very bogged down talking all of the intros and all the outros, like the cold open and then the tags, like, because those factored in a little.
And also, I just like the overall joke about like, okay, so we have this huge election, and it gets down to just two people, and what it gets down to, two catchphrases: pop, pop versus.
It's the debate of the century.
It's much like our 2016 choices.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then you also have the great, I guess you could call it the C story with Abed and the Secret Service agent. Who's
was that in the poli-sci? Yeah.
Yeah. Honk twice if you want to see another movie. Cool.
It was with what's her face from Scrubs.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going
And
to try to pull her name
also,
up.
you have
what's her
a
face?
good. You also have Joe Biden in there.
Just making appearances on all of the NBC comedies for a period of time.
That's right.
It was Eliza Coop.
Oh,
That's
I
what it
like
was.
her.
I know. So
All
is
right.
your vote going to poli-sci?
Yep.
Well, coming down to me as far as my choices go, I am finding myself. I was like I said, I was more torn when I first thought about it, but for me, it had to go to cooperative calligraphy because the fact that it's one of my favorite things about the show is the meta-ness of it, and the fact that like it's just Abed. I think he says it 3 or 4 times before they even get to the first commercial break, and then Jeff says it annoyingly. And they say in one of the commentaries later on that when he does like the fake phone call and he's like, Gwennifer, hi. Yeah, I tell him, I'm sorry, the date's off. I'm doing a bottle episode. But that was supposed to be like to Britta because they were sleeping together at that point in
Yeah.
time.
That was the secret code word for her.
Gwennifer. Yep.
Gwen.
So, but yeah, it's just there's so many things that, especially since the bottle episode starts and then it even leads to more things paying off. Like I like the poli-sci and like it became one of the jokes where Shirley, like all the cast started going, I'm going to die by werewolf. Because it's also when Abed starts to make movies.
No, that's a debate 109.
Oh, that's different than poli-sci.
Yep.
Oh, well, then we'll get to debate 109 because that's only in a few. So forget about that. I'm thinking of a different episode. But yeah, I went cooperative calligraphy anyway.
All right, then let's move on to the next matchup. The 17 seed Paragons of Human Memory versus the 48 seed Accounting for Lawyers.
40.
I mean, are we going to have much discussion for this one? I mean, it's got to be the Human Memories one, but
Paradigms.
Paradigms to Human Memory.
I mean, Dan, you were talking about how much you enjoy Community when it goes all in on the meta-ness, and I love just the entire concept of a clip show of things that never really happened.
It's so great.
It also allows this episode to stand out just to the fact that it is so densely packed with jokes, because you could just have fake reference that's just a few seconds, like Abed doing his stuff with the cape, just knocking trays of food out. It's just like a couple of seconds, just we move on to the next thing. Or just jumping around Jeff's big speech, but in horrendous situations, like Pierce has a gun to his head from what I'm assuming are Colombian drug runners and things.
Yep.
It's so densely packed with jokes. It's wonderful. It's one of my faves.
And that's only mentioning a few things too. So you mentioned the cape. This episode is where we get 6 seasons in a movie from.
That's right.
It's also you get Troy basically trying to create a cartoon where it's the St. Patrick's Day thing, and he was like, you could be mad at me all you want. I've seen enough cartoons to know popping the back of a raft makes it go faster.
Yep.
Like just so many one-offs like that. And I think I read literally today when I was looking for stuff for this is there were 72 brand new setups that had never been in any episodes before. So that's how many clips they had to cycle through.
I was thinking about that too, just from a production standpoint. It's like they made a set just for like a 4-second joke.
Right.
You're sprinting from one thing to another.
Yep.
He taught us new ways to hate ourselves.
It's just impressive. And the other one is enjoyable, but it's just not on the same level.
Accounting for Lawyers is the introduction of Rob Corddry.
Yep.
Of Alan. So you get a few really good things about that. You get some of it's early. I don't remember whether it's first or second season, but like it's early in one of those two seasons.
Second season, and it's still one of my favorite gags where it's Drew Carey's the head of the law firm who has that weird hole in his hand.
I wouldn't ask about the big weird hole in my hand.
You know what? For you guys. Boop.
That joke is amazing, and then the only other joke really worth mentioning is when they break into his office, and then you get all the chloroform jokes coming up, and like I don't know what to do, my whole brain is crying.
A great Troy freak out.
Yes, but I think we're all in agreement. It's Paradigms of Human Memory.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have the number 6 seed Digital Estate Planning taking on the only episode that comes from the gas leak season. and that's Heroic Origins.
This surprised me, just the fact that, because this is a 64 seed tournament,
Yeah.
which means there's dozens of episodes that will not be covered. And one from the Gas Leak got in.
People loved it because it was the origin story for everyone.
I don't remember loving it.
I mean, I didn't, but I mean, the internet remembers it fondly.
Because I don't think we'll probably discuss much of the Gas Leak here. What do you guys feel like was probably the best episode of the Gas Leak here?
Sadie Hawkins dance.
Yeah, that one's really good. That one probably feels most like one of the other seasons. Yes.
Yeah. And it's also the introduction of Brie Larson as Abed's girlfriend.
Yes. I would probably agree with the both of you with that one. I think the worst is honestly the one where it's like the paintball again.
Oh, the finale where they really try to bring like, yep, this is the darkest timeline.
Yeah. I really didn't care for the Inspector Spacetime episode as well. It was just both of those felt like examples of, we're trying to give you the thing that you want, right? Isn't this what you want? And just not having a feel for it at all.
See, I didn't mind the Inspector Spacetime so much because it was, had they actually tried to go to, I wasn't a huge fan of the Shirley Pierce C story, but as far as like the Jeff and Annie one where she's like fantasizing about being his wife, and then the main Troy and Abed Britta storyline with like, I thought that was a good joke where he's like, oh, can you believe how many people I emailed? No one would send me a cashier's check for $5,000. Like, here's your money back. Like, there are little points in that episode that I really enjoy. And then the whole Jeff, like, looking exactly like Thraxis, I thought was really funny too. So I think that one has its ups, its like high points for sure. But I think the Sadie Hawkins, I think was it Her Story of Dance?
Yeah, Her Story of Dance. Yep.
And then it's 2 dates at once. Yeah, I think that's the best season 4. So then it's interesting that like, because when I read through this, when Abed's putting together like all their timelines to see how they came together, I never even considered this to be going up against what's going up against digital estate planning. Hell no.
No, this is a slam dunk. Digital estate planning all the way.
Digital estate planning was one of the ones where I was like, when I saw the seating, Eric was like, oh, it's 3 paintballs and remedial chaos theory. I'm like, excuse me? And this was one of my excuse me episodes, digital estate planning.
I think especially if people grew up in like that Nintendo, Super Nintendo sprite-filled sort of era, it has even more charm and nostalgia for us, as well as just like the cleverness of working again within a very different yet restrictive yet creatively fulfilling sandbox that they just.
Well, technically, this would be a number 2 seed if there was a real March Madness tournament. So it's still up there, Dan.
Well, it's moving on. I think that's all that matters.
Yes,
it's moving on. There's that too. All right, so let's move on to the next matchup. We have the 25 seed Debate 109, which we talked about a little bit, and the 40th seed Beginner Pottery.
Yes.
I was a little surprised by the seeding of these 2 episodes. Mostly the Beginner Pottery is so low.
I was going to say, how so? All right.
Right. Lost my pen. For this one, I'm going Beginner Pottery with the upset over Debate 109 because 109 has some good moments, but I just love the stories that was told through Beginner Pottery and Jeff's evolution as a character, where he finally at the end realizes it's okay to have faults. And you get the introduction of Rich.
You get the introduction of Rich.
What do you think, Dan?
I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
My thoughts? I don't remember Debate 109, so that's part of it.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So Debate 109 is where the Dean and Annie come up to Jeff, and they're like, oh, Annie's partner is sick. We need Jeff to step into the debate. And they have to debate the guy who's in a wheelchair with the soul patch. And then he goes up and he starts singing in front of all the people. And like Pierce is trying to hypnotize Britta to quit smoking. And then this is the one I had him confused before. This is the one where it's the start of Abed, and he's saying like doing all the video projects, and he's cast everybody as like caricatures of the actual characters, and you see like fake Troy going, "That's wrinkling my brain," and then it's right after real Troy goes, "That's wrinkling my brain." Like,
It's very Seinfeld when they were going to LA to make their pilot.
Yeah, I think actually also the people who were, playing them in the Abed's movies were actually their stand-ins.
Oh, it makes sense.
That's awesome. I think it was for sure Chevy Chase's.
Yeah.
I will say between the two of them, I have more solid memories of beginner pottery, but I don't have a strong fight either way in this.
It was
Also, you have the great visual of no ghosting.
yeah.
I got it before he was dead.
It's not.
Yeah,
bad.
Tony Hale does a great job in this episode as the pottery professor.
Yeah, in like 2.5 scenes.
My little blueberries.
Yeah, no, this was for me. It was beginner pottery because I had the same kind of thing where I was like Eric was thinking, but then after I thought about it, I'm like, more of it's lasting for me with beginner pottery. You have the very amusing Allison Brie visual gag. What are you making? A vase. Like, a lot of it just fits really well. And then another turn, kind of like the Taran Killam turn where it's evil, where it's like, I can't even remember what his mom says it is. We good?
Oh, the wrong son died.
But you get that little turn where, yeah, that's what it was. Well, you have to do pottery. You couldn't take more time with your studies. And he's just, same kind of
dark stare into the camera.
Yes.
All right.
Beginner pottery.
Good at.
Yeah. All right. Next one. The number 9 seed, Conspiracy Theories and Interior Design versus the 56 seed, Origins of Vampire. I'm hoping there isn't much debate to this one because it should be pretty obvious which one's moving on.
At least I would say it's gonna be Conspiracy Theories, right? One of their other their homage episodes that stands out. Yeah, Kevin Corrigan as Professor Professorson.
I remember watching this the night it debuted at your apartment, Nate, and we were laughing so hard I almost gave myself an asthma attack because it was that funny in certain moments.
Community almost murdered you that night.
That's right, and I'm better for it.
That would have been an interesting conspiracy. The only thing I do want to mention is there are a couple of really nice moments in Origins of Vampire because it's all like literally. I don't think they got the rights to the movie, which is why you only hear like random sound effects from the movie Blade in the background. But
it is a kick-ass vampire hunter.
Yeah, a badass kickboxing vampire hunter movie. Like just the indignancy because this is right before Troy and Britta start dating as well, so you get a little bit of foreshadowing with that too. But like they set it up so well where it's like the carnival's in town and like Britta gets all excited and then she invokes like, but I know as you're my friends, you would never make fun of me. His name is Blade. And then they all just start dying because that's what anyone would do in real life. Like, and then they go on to the movie. You get a weird Pierce Chang duo as far as them being best friends. And then Jeff, like, I can't remember the name of the guy who's a comedian who plays Blade, but like, it's just worth noting that like
was it Mahershala Ali?
No, little bit of more foreshadowing.
I'm just racist. That's all.
Well, we know. You're our Pierce. It's okay. But like
to be your Joe Exotic.
The whole speech at the end where Jeff is talking about how it's like he feels no shame. She's like, why didn't he tell me? He's like, because he didn't care if you knew. Like that whole interaction, like. That I thought that was a really nice like cherry to the top of that episode, but like no, it's conspiracy theory and interior design.
Yep. All right, moving to the last matchup in this bracket, we have the 24 seed Modern Espionage taking on the 41 seed The Science of Illusion. So Modern Espionage is one of the first from actually the last season, season 6.
What did you guys think of the Yahoo year? I thought it was pretty on par with the previous Dan Harmon seasons. I don't think it was quite at the apex, but I thought it was much closer to the quality that we had come to expect from the show. Mm-hmm.
It was like the early part of season 1 where it's like, where the show is going. like where the show could eventually be, and this is like them in reverse going, "Hey, this is us saying goodbye to the show." So I was all for it.
Plus, I really love Paget Brewster as a comedic actress, so her addition just made me happy. I've loved her since 20 years ago, almost, with Andy Richter Controls the Universe.
And we also have Keith David that season, so
It's gonna be nobody's Black Ghostbuster.
that's right.
I do love Keith David in comedy as well, and with Paget Brewster. They were both amazing additions. The only other thing I think that wasn't on from this season, I want to click through and figure out which one it actually was, but there was one particular episode. I don't know what it was called, but the Honda episode. I was a little sad that episode's not on here. Because that's one of my favorite Paget Brewster moments that entire time is where she's like lecturing the dean about how he's so bad, like how he's so dumb, and she's like, "No, not to be mad, but you're dumb. You're so dumb." And it's like she's so earnest, and you just see like Dean Pelton just start weeping, and he's like, "I can't control it." Like there's some elements and some like that's a great episode that was a little self-contained. But this one, so this is going up against. What was the other one? Going up against
the Science of Illusion. That's the main reason I remember this episode is where they get Pierce dressed up as the Cookie Monster, the Cookie Crisp Wizard.
Yep, it's not a video; it's a cookie wand.
And then you do have the great sub story of Annie and Shirley as the security guards.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do
both trying
that one. Yeah,
where they're both trying to be the bad cop.
That might be one of the first times you get Abed playing a character to where he's like, "I'm sick and tired of you," and she's like, "He's that captain character from Abed was right." And then you just see Dean Pelton like eating popcorn, like watching the whole show. But yeah, for me, it was an upset in this one.
Oh, so you're going with the Science of Illusion?
Yeah, which is a season 1 episode, which I don't think we've had too many of those yet.
Nate, which one are you thinking?
This is going to be a squeaker for me, but I'm going to go with Modern Espionage just because I remember having more fun with it. But both of these are really solid episodes.
Yep, I'm going with Modern Espionage too. I think they were both solid. I just think the Modern Espionage I had more fun with, especially when they do their shout out to the Russos where they do the elevator scene from Captain America Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I had forgotten about all the in-character Marvel jokes that they made in the finale until I watched it again. Like those terrible, bland Marvel movies.
All right, so move to the other side of the bracket.
Well, other side or down?
Yeah, it's up to you guys.
I just go down.
You do realize this podcast is going to be like 5 hours, right?
I think we'll have to. We'll go through all the first round and then probably stop because then it's going to have to be. It'll go quicker at the second rounds.
Why don't you do like the first 2 rounds so then you could just have like a Sweet 16?
Because it's going to be not quite as long, but theoretically half as long. So we'll see where we are after the first.
We just got done with the first group of 16, and we're already close to 50 minutes. So
one out of 4.
Yeah, 1 out of 4. I think we'll do 2 out of 4. Then we'll stop, take a couple days, come back, do the other side, and then keep going from there. How's that sound?
Whatever you guys want to do.
Oh, you only want to do one half of the bracket?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because if not, we're gonna be here all night.
Yes.
I'm fine with that. Whatever.
Okay. All right. So next up, the number 4 seed for a few paintballs more, taking on the 61 seed, The Art of Disclosure.
This made me kind of sad.
I was gonna say, go ahead. Paintballs more. That's the second part of the 2-part paintball.
Yep,
correct.
It's the one that's more Western.
No,
it's the Star Wars one.
No,
this is the Star Wars one. Okay.
No, the Western is a Fistful of Paintballs.
Okay, you're correct. I will say, like, after the fact, I didn't realize how much this syncs up as like a Rogue One parody. Just years before Rogue One was even a glint in someone's eye, I think it works even better as a Star Wars parody now than it did back then. So I have some greater appreciation for it. And it does have some of like my favorite visual gags, just with the onslaught of the paintballs, Troy's death. It's like, I had a dream it would end this way, and he just gets filled with paintballs. I think I watched that like 5 times. Abed doing a character, as we've talked about before. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of like how it ends, where like Pierce is the winner. He surprises everyone, but he's still, just by being himself and being dickish, or at least dickish enough, ends up saving the day.
Well, not only is he the winner in this particular episode, but in the episode before it, they're doing the voting where it was like they're talking about kicking him out of the group. And so you get the end scene, which is like the epilogue to the entire season, where he has a really earnest monologue where he's like, I've been coming here for 12 years and I've never been a friend with anyone for more than a semester. And it's so... They pointed it out when I listened to the commentary, but it's such a good, well-delivered monologue, and they're all sitting around just watching him as he leaves, and they pull back, and then you see part of the ceiling fall, and it doesn't even like cut the tension because it's like was so well crafted just after all that action.
And and there is a lot of, it's them wanting Pierce to come back because that's what they expect. Mm-hmm. And again, it's just another great episode for his character.
I'm gonna have a hot take here. I didn't think this was going to happen, but after rewatching all 3 of the paintball episodes, I think this might be my favorite.
Ooh.
Hot take.
Hot take. Hotake. So do you want to talk about the art of discourse, Eric, or you want me to?
I will. I secretly love this episode. I love the story of Troy and Abed trying to do every cliche college thing to do. And you also have that great story with Jeff and Britta dealing with the high schoolers. Yeah. And also, this is another one where I have fond memories of watching this with Nate. Because I remember we were watching, and there's like certain times like, I really wish they would do this. And then they do it. I was like, oh, we're writing this episode as it happens.
Well, I think we had just watched, what was it, like After the Grade or something, or Making the Grade?
Judd Nelson. Right, because the last joke of Troy and Abed, like, will return in some terrorista or whatever, is actually a shout out to a horrible movie that me and Nate watched, starring Judd Nelson, where the end with Judd Nelson and this other character driving off into the sunset, going, "These two will return in," and the name of a movie that never happens.
So that never happened. That movie was Troy and Abed.
Mm-hmm.
Did Dan freeze?
Dan freeze.
We'll be back in College Cut-Ups 2 Panty Raid Academy.
That's
you were looking it up.
So that's where, but yeah, I'm with you, Eric. Like, I have such a strong affinity for this episode.
But
sorry, I think we were talking at the same time. But no, like the whole thing about when you get into the high school, and they just go duh, and then like the whole plan that they have, everybody goes, "You need to sleep with that guy's mom," and like it was the smartest thing that they'd ever thought of. And then the whole
Jeff really needs to sleep with that guy's mom, and then they come up with that plan. I was like, oh,
it's like they anticipate the audience's ideas of where it's going to go every step, and they're just like, "Oh wait, we gotcha."
We got you.
So it was a highly enjoyable episode.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Had this not come up against a paintball episode in the first round, it easily goes to the second round. Unfortunately, it comes up against a paintball episode. Right,
because it's going up against a paintball episode. It does not make it.
Yeah.
Unfortunate seeding.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Next up, the 29th seed. Intermediate documentary filmmaking taking on the 36th seed, Introduction to Teaching.
Is this the first documentary parody one? Oh, well then there. I'm done. Hands down there.
Yeah, I gotta go with Nate.
I'm pretty much the same way. I think I looked up what was the other one? Introduction to Teaching. I think
The
that's an
highlight for that
early.
episode is the one where you get Abed freaking out over Nick Cage.
Oh, whether
Yes,
it's good or bad.
Yep.
that's where it was. And it's you get Professorson coming back, or Professor Wooly.
What is
Oh,
the,
and you
Mhm.
that's a great part. But then there's also there's the whole riot throughout the school where it's like minuses are made up, and then the tipping over the trash can.
Yep. We're gonna riot.
So, but yeah, I'm in the same boat to where it's like this was an easy one. As soon as you realize that it's intermediate documentary filmmaking, it was that one.
Which
You
was
never
another one
disappoint.
where it's so densely packed with jokes because of the format that it allows itself to be. Because of that, you could have the quick cuts, the quick edits. It's so packed.
They even say that in the commentary. Like, I think Dan Harmon's going on. He's like, I understand entirely why comedies are shot this way. He's like, it multiplies your joke per second quotient by like 3 because you can just cut away to somebody explaining the joke, which is funny too.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a great Brita episode.
Yep. Can you imagine bouncing a check to Gunta Kinte?
Well, what do I know? I'm Jeff Winger's dumb gay dad.
All right, next matchup: the number 13 seed Pillows and Blankets taking on the 52 seed Social Psychiatry.
Pillows and Blankets, one of the
I
best
was gonna say
episodes.
this is another easy one.
Pillows and blankets, yeah. Dude, I'll
Shocked
pull up.
that it is only 13 seed.
Right. Well, we'll get to another one about that as well that I have lots of umbrage with. Just to quickly touch on Social Psychology is, let me see if I can pull it up real quick because I just want to make sure we at least mention what type of episode it is. Okay, so Social Psychology is the one where it's in the first season, but it's the Ian Duncan principle, and you get Chang who freaks out, and then you get the whole a great Troy freak out where he's like cared for you, and then you hear him scream, "You promised butt stuff," and then he crawls away. One of the best parts of that episode. Oh, it's also the introduction of Vaughn as a character.
And now it's
that's pretty much
now
it.
it's gone. All right, next up we have Critical Film Studies taking on Foosball and Nocturnal Vigilantism.
the 20 seed versus the 45th seed.
Yep.
Yes.
So we
Film
have
Studies, that's the Tarantino one, right?
Tarantino and My Dinner with Andre.
The mashup.
Yes.
And then the foosball one is, of course, the great reveal of Jeff and Shirley's history together of playing foosball. And then, of course, you have the great Annie destroying Abed's priceless Dark Knight DVD. And then her trying to cover it up.
We'll record fake commentary from Christian Bale.
Oh, yeah, give that a try. This show is particularly difficult. Okay, it won't work.
Stop it. Like, this was another one where I was like, I enjoy that My Dinner with Andre Pulp Fiction, but it's pretty cut and dry. Like there's a handful of jokes, but you know what it is. Nocturnal Vigilantism and Foosball, for me, this is an upset. This is an easy upset. Nick Kroll and those two other guys doing ridiculous German accents are so much fun, and they're able to play off everything so well.
Me enjoying your mispleasure.
So great. And then when they throw the ball, and then Nick Kroll goes up and he kicks it, and then Jeff's like, what? Are they just walking around with a soccer ball for that? It's like a $20 bit. It's not even that good. And he just looks so incredulous. Like,
I'm with you on this one, Dan.
Episode is so underrated.
And also,
yeah,
I was going to say what I really like about this episode. It's also, for all the humor that you get with Community, you also get some good heartfelt moments, and this is one of those episodes that has it with Jeff and Shirley at the end. Yep. And then also I love their final combat in the anime style. Yes! And then you get that great cat.
There's way more going on with foosball and nocturnal vigilantism than critical film studies. Film studies just feels like it's one of those, and it doesn't happen often, but it's one of those where it's like they're doing the homage, but there's not much more than the homage.
Sure.
So for me, it's one of the weaker homage episodes. I enjoy it, but I'm going foosball.
Agreed. Foosball.
All right.
Foosball.
All right. Next up, I believe is the 6th overall seed. Yep. Emotional consequences of broadcast television, taking on the 60th seed VCR maintenance and educational publishing.
AKA the finale versus something that isn't the finale.
Right.
The true finale, because we'll get
Yes,
into that when we come to
that's
it
true.
later on.
The only thing I remember about VCR maintenance is Vince Gilligan with the barrel of bullets or whatever it was, the VCR
Oh
board game.
yeah, the VCR board game. He was very good and funny in that too.
So it's
I
the
even love the outro with him and Gina Gershon going, "Hey, now that you got this, we can do cocaine."
yeah. So it's the VCR board game. It is you get Brie Larson coming back. You get I think it's Andy's brother who they do like but they're looking for a new roommate.
Yep.
You also get the payday rap from the dean where he ends up with like Barack Obama is scared of me.
Oh, that's an all timer right there.
Yeah, so funny. And it's the I would say parallel B story because they're just two B stories was them finding a stash of textbooks.
I don't remember enjoying that storyline. The textbook scam. It just didn't seem like it really worked for me, but I loved the other elements on the fringes
I
of
loved
that
everything
episode.
else about that episode.
But
That's I went with an upset on this one just because it was like I understand the emotional consequences of broadcast television, and this is why I'm going first because I think I'm going to get outvoted. But I went with the VCR maintenance because the emotional consequences of broadcast television felt like it was a good finale, but we'll get to later on when we talk about it. We'll get to what I think was the true finale and really felt like a real finale. They were just kind of redoing other things where it was like a little bit of Remedial Chaos Theory. It was a little bit of the fake clip show to where it's like, oh, what would it be like? Blah blah blah. And it was like I liked the last like 5-10 minutes, but them just sitting around pontificating about like what it could be and them all doing different goodbyes. I was like, I get it, but I think I enjoy watching the VCR one more. So I actually went with an upset on this.
Nate?
I'm going with the finale. This is one of my favorites. I understand where Dan is coming from. I do think the finale, it is good. I would even say very good because for the first part, it's like that Community episode that you want where they're at their meta clever best as far as coming up with all the different versions of what different incarnations, how wacky things could get to try and keep this going. It has a lot of commentary about the show itself, a lot of reflection, but then it transitions into a more emotional space about moving on and such like that. And it reminds you of the heart behind all the wankiness and the meta commentary as well. And honestly, the concluding home board game segment
Oh my god.
goes from
Yes.
like absurdity to
Wayne Fetterman.
existentialism to
Yes.
dark to
Mhm.
I think like maybe one of the most honest moments that Dan Harmon has ever written for
Mhm.
himself,
Yep.
trying to
Yep.
communicate things through a proxy that he has an inability to communicate to the people he cares about in life. I laughed so goddamn hard in that episode where the father has the little script and he's just reading it and just goes, "You stupid child, you don't get it, do you?" And just unloads on them about how none of them exist.
Yeah, we don't exist.
It's that perfectly realized community nugget to go
Yes.
out on, and for me, it's like this is the show. It gave me the meta-ness, it gave me how clever it was, it gave me the heart, but then it also gave me something that no other show would be capable of delivering. So that's why I went with the finale.
Got it.
I'm going with Nate with this one because of what he said. It's literally the perfect combination of what I love about Community, and that's how I would want the series to end, with the meta humor, the great humor, but at the same time you get that heart element that I love.
No complaints.
That-
None
All
at all.
right.
I'm saying like that concluding board game thing might be like my
Probably the best
favorite,
thing, yeah,
like
Dan Harmon
1
wrote.
minute of Community in its entirety. It's just so perfectly realized and how it cycles through those different sort of phases. It's chef's kiss.
Nice. All right, the next matchup we have, let's see, I believe that is the 25th seed.
Wait.
28.
28. Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas taking on the 37 seed Wedding Videograph. And this is an upset for me because I'm going with videography. Also, one of the reasons is because Keith David's song about pants is my ringtone.
I knew.
That's fair.
And also, it's another one of those. I know it's a documentary series, another one of the documentary episodes. But what I love, it's another one of those great build-up, or it's building up to this great joke where it's revealed that he's marrying his cousin, and then you also get the great joke that keeps him going. That man knows how to marry his cousin.
It's a standout episode.
You guys tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong. This is take all of my umbrage. Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas being seated 28. Are you fucking kidding me? This is one of like you took a dead medium. You took something that doesn't like claymation. You have Leica Studios doing it, and that's kind of it. And they were able to throw it into the middle, like an early part of one of the seasons for a Christmas episode that you talk about the zaniness and the heart coming together, like, oh, and not to mention like
Rankin and Bass style. That's so like nostalgic.
So nostalgic. You still get meta jokes to where at the meaning of Christmas at the very end is the first season of Lost on DVD. Like
it's all set up with no payoff.
Yes, and
much
because
like Rise of Skywalker.
Because Lost was still in production at the same time, the writers' room of Lost sent them a box set to the writers' room of Community because they thought the joke was so good. Like, that's just everything about Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas is like it had to be pitch perfect, and it was. And like, I appreciate wedding videography, but it never had a chance.
I'm gonna go with Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas as well for all the reasons Dan cited. I'm gonna throw another one. It sets up a later joke where they flash back to that sequence, and you see in the clip show where his eyes are closed and he's just explaining what we were seeing in the animated segments, and everyone else around is just like, yeah. And you just
let's go find Christmas more.
Yeah. I tripped on a gumdrop.
Go. I knew I was going down, but you know what? Again, I just want Keith David singing about pants as my ringtone for life.
Sure. Nothing wrong with that.
The finest moment of his career.
Right up there with the fight scene from They Live. All right. The number 12 seed, Epidology, taking on the 53 seed, Environmental Science.
It's epidemiology.
Yep.
They're fancy.
This is probably going to be another one where we don't need to have much discussion.
Remind me what I just watched it, but remind me what epidemiology was.
That was
the zombie episode.
Oh yeah, no, this is one of my favorites. I love it.
Yeah, with George Takei doing voiceover.
Hey, for all you Kevins out there, it's just
this is a special one for you.
Yeah.
The only thing I will give environmental science for is you have that great musical number where Troy and Abed are singing Somewhere Out There with the Celtic band playing in the background while Senior Chang is doing salsa dancing with his wife.
It was Green Day. Yeah, no, you pretty much nailed it. The tag for this one is they were gonna have a squirt gun fight, and then Pierce comes up and squirts him in the eyes with pepper water.
Yep. Who does that?
Who puts pepper in water? But yeah, no, epidemiology all the way.
All right. Next up, the last matchup. 21 seed documentary filmmaking Redux versus the 44 seed mixology certification. That is mixology is where Troy discovers he's 21. And also discovers that his mom's been lying to him about a lot of stuff.
Okay, I do remember this one now.
And that's when I texted Dan, what's a 7 and 7?
You did text me that.
Oh, instead of just Googling it. You're his first Google.
Yep. And then, of course, that's right. And then, of course, documentary filmmaking, of course, is Dean Pelton directing the the new commercial for Greendale,
Yes, it's documentary filmmaking
which turns
Redux.
into a parody of Heart of Darkness, the making of. Yep, the parody
Apocalypse
of
Now.
making of. So Darkness. It's parodying Heart of Darkness, which is the documentary about making Apocalypse Now. And you get Luis Guzman.
Hello, it's me, Luis Guzman.
With his Luis Guzman statue.
Yes,
I gotta go documentary filmmaking all day.
same.
That's right.
Nate, can you hear me? I think
Yeah.
Eric's cutting in and out a little bit.
Same here.
Yeah, you're getting a little.
Choppy.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Well, you were it was weird because like you sounded like a robot for some of it when you were explaining both of those.
I've had a couple moments with like some of you guys just kind of
I
like
do
freezing
apologize.
or getting choppy, but it hasn't been too bad. Although it's not as great with Eric right now, but
Yeah, Eric's been a little choppy over the last like 5 minutes or so.
get
just
it
going over that-
together, man.
Pump your internet up. I was gonna say I'll go over it real quick and just say Mixology is the one where they find out Troy's 21. They all go out to a bar. They sneak Annie in. Everyone still gets like, you get Pierce stuck in the vestibule, so they kind of nerf him right out of the gate. And then everyone else is just around the bar doing different things. Annie gets drunk at the bar because she's impersonating someone from Corpus Christi. And it's actually kind of a dark episode. Like everyone gets kind of drunk and it's not uplifting. But I'm with Nate on this one, where I'm going to go documentary filmmaking Redux. It's just when you get a really good Dean Pelton episode, like they're so good, and him like breaking down, and there's a really funny little Easter egg where when you see him take off his underwear before he burns it, it was the same underwear that Jeff was wearing in the physical education where they play pool. It's the same underwear from that episode. So yeah, I don't know how you're feeling, Eric, but it was documentary for me as well.
Oh yeah, no, it's documentary, hands down. I mean, you were texting earlier this week about mixology, where like it was a dark episode. I mean, it was nice that Troy gets an episode to shine in it, especially at the end. But yeah, it's documentary Redux.
Now you sound like you're back.
Yeah, you sound good now. Yeah, make it a sweep. I also appreciate how this movie or this episode, it is a movie parody, but this episode, it reminds me of Documentary Now, the series, which is like very, very pinpoint focus in its parody of very specific kinds of documentaries. So this wasn't just kind of resting on its laurels of its Office-esque parody from their first documentary episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Gotcha.
it did something different when it could have just been a repetition of what we've seen in the past. Whereas kind of how I feel some of the paintball goes, but this tried.
Yeah. Well, and it took what they were doing with the documentary filmmaking and it built on it more.
Yes.
Whereas like the first documentary they had, it was pretty much straight up like they're lampooning the other TV series that use that kind of documentary format. Whereas this, they were not only lampooning that, but you're going into Heart of Darkness, you're going into Apocalypse Now. And then it's like, when you see like the execs, well, not really execs, but when you see the school board guys like watch the other cut of it, or no, you see Luis Guzman watch the other cut, and then you see the school board guys watch the cut that Abed did, where it's like, some flies are too awesome for the wall. Like, what a good little line. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what documentary filmmakers are supposed to do. They're just supposed to be a fly on the wall. And Abed's like, why do that? Like, you can be so much more. And that's a great little thing to take away from this.
I'm going to watch this episode when we're done recording, I think.
I was going to say, Eric, that's one half of the bracket. How do you feel about taking a little break and then we can knock out the other half?
Yeah, that's up to you guys. I'm fine with that.
I'm willing to go as long as you guys want to go on this. I do think if you're going to have a stopping point for an episode, you might want to get through an entire round.
We can do that.
Go from 60,
We can keep
64
going.
to 52.
All right, let's keep going.
All right, so we're moving over to the other side of the bracket.
West
The number
side.
2 seed, Remedial Chaos Theory, taking on Queer Studies in Advanced Waxing,
The 63rd seed.
63rd seed.
I don't remember what Queer Studies in Advanced Waxing was.
That is from the 6th season. That's where you get Dean Pelton as Gay Dean, and then you have Chang doing a stage adaptation of The Karate Kid.
Okay.
But
It's Chaos.
does it matter? No.
Chaos Theater is arguably the best episode. So no, yeah, it's there. It was the only one I remember that was actually nominated for an Emmy for writing.
It was. True.
Chris McKenna.
And that was another one that I remember watching at Nate's with our buddy Alan and laughing uncontrollably at times.
The format is just so I love like time loop stories and things like that. So it just sets you up for so many jokes because you know more than the characters do. You can set something up in like the first part, and then the fourth part it pays off. You build off of the knowledge that you have. You can go in all these different directions. It's a wonderful format for comedy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just hard agree. Like Queer Studies is fine for Gay Dean, and Jason Mantzoukas is amusing as hell, just abusing Ken Jeong emotionally. Like it's really funny to watch, but no, it's remedial chaos theory.
Well, when is Mantzoukas not amusing?
John Wick 3.
It's true. I was expecting him to go maximum Derek and then just kill a bunch of guys.
I did see someone this week put together a picture of Mantzoukas' Derek and then Oscar Isaac from Dune put next to each other. And I was like, I would watch that buddy cop comedy.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'd watch that in my dreams right now.
I'd masturbate to that buddy cop comedy.
Furiously.
Right now.
Well, it's, I've revealed too much about myself.
All right, moving on. Anthropology 101, the 31 seed, taking on Virtual Systems Analysis, the 34th seed. So we have like two episodes literally at the polar opposites. Because Anthropology 101 is the season 2 premiere. You have Betty White there. This is where you get some great payoffs from the season 1 finale. But then you have probably one of the most meta episodes of this entire series, where it's Abed and Annie in the Dreamatorium for the entire episode, and where you're like they're doing the Grey's Anatomy parody and all that stuff.
I don't have strong feelings on either of these, but I would lean Virtual Systems Analysis just because I feel like it's more ambitious, but willing to see what you guys think.
So you have Betty White doing the guest star for Anthropology, and then you have the wrap up you have Abed trying to go more meta in Anthropology, where he hires I wish I could remember the name of Abed hired an Irish singer.
Yep. Doing the Cranberries.
It was the lead singer from the Cranberries.
Oh, she is now dead.
Oh, that's sad.
Oh, did no one knew that?
I didn't know that.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. She died.
Yes. But as far as Virtual Systems Analysis goes, that is in so meta, and especially for someone who grew up watching a lot of Star Trek, where it's like the Dreamatorium is like their holodeck. And then going through and seeing Abed's versions of all the meta people. I've actually used the monologue Troy does when he gets hit with truth serum because I found it so fucking funny. And it ends with him going like, I cried at About a Boy, the soundtrack. And then like, I didn't get Inception. Like, and then they get to Abed and you get to see a whole lot more about his character. For me, this wasn't really much of a competition. It was Virtual System Analysis all day.
Yeah, I went with Virtual Systems Analysis because the ambition of this episode. Like now we can get that on Netflix. Like shows can do something like that on Netflix, Hulu, whatever. But on NBC primetime television, to have something this meta on an 8 o'clock on a Thursday, yeah, good on Dan Harmon and the crew.
You literally have Allison Brie at one point being like, "So I shouldn't say things like talk show, like Abed, I'm in a TV show," and then it's like, "Wait, what? Like, how far can you go doing this?" It's like, "Oh, we got an Abed here," and that's how she ultimately finds him.
Plus, I think it gives us a pairing that I think is underrated as well, which is the Annie Abed pairing.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Next, the 15th seed. What was that? Comparative pornography. Yeah.
I like Eric's comparative pornography because that actually does sound like something that would be a community title.
Right, it would be a community course.
Cooperative polygraphy.
Polygraph. Taking on course listing unavailable, the 50th seed. So that one I have to remember because I always get the 2 episodes, but this is the setup for Chang taking over.
Yes, Course Listening Unavailable is the episode after Law and Order, and it is Starburn's wake.
Yep. And then
An
that's when
enjoyable episode.
Yep, and that's where everyone finds out that they don't have credit anymore, and then that's when the dean gets ousted.
Mm-hmm. Well, he signs away his power.
Yep. And then the other episode, you get it's the 5th season, correct, Dan?
Yes.
Walter Guy as the lawyer.
Walton fucking Goggins.
He's so good. And this is in conjunction with Calligraphy, one of my favorites. And I think there's something they have in common. You have the group put together and they're unburdening themselves with like their recriminations and the things that their secrets and things that they've been holding back from each other. And it's just so rapid fire. It's so focused on character, and it keeps increasing in its just intensity. That this is honestly, I just rewatched this a couple hours ago. This is one of the last episodes I watched before we started recording. I think this might be one of my favorite episodes. It's so just, some of the lines are some of the greatest lines, and just the absurdity of the joke of everyone getting the canister of sperm. And how Walton Goggins is like, and obligatory sperm, and just how like ordinary he gets with it. It just
also sperm
builds to a point where I was just like, I was laughing to the point of almost tears in my eyes, and I just watched it a couple hours ago.
Well, I also love it because it's also sets up, Donald Glover leaving the series.
Mm-hmm. In a way that doesn't feel cheap either.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just like I'm going to another school. It's like, no, he gets a good send-off.
Yeah. Well, at least the start of a send-off.
Yeah, start of the send-off. Yep.
He gets me something I know I've always wanted. Millions of dollars.
Also, just the line that Britta has when she is shocked that Jeff has kept her underwear, and she just says, "You told me a hawk stole them. You exploited me and made me believe in a more magical world."
There are a lot of really good one-offs in that episode.
Some of the lines are some of the best.
Great ones, yeah.
Where it's like they say something, lie, silence, wench.
That was great. Even the last shot where Walton Goggins stands up and his line delivery of shots is so wonderful.
Hello.
Did we lose you, Dan?
I lost part of you for a second. Are we there?
Yeah, now we are.
All right.
Okay. Now we're here.
Yeah.
I like what you were saying too, Nate, about him like kind of breaking character that whole time, and then he gets that monologue and he was like, I'm like, you guys, I got all these ideas, and like I wrote a screenplay where it's all about, and he says wwhatever his profession is.
It's all about super hot polygraph man.
Yeah, they can't focus because he's too attractive. It's like, that's why, and this is why I did want to bring this up. So I'm looking at you, Hollywood. That's how you use Walton Goggins. You don't make him the B villain in fucking Ant-Man 2 and waste him.
Totally wasted.
Totally wasted.
He shines more in this 22 minutes of a sitcom than he did in an hour and 50 for Ant-Man 2.
Shame.
Walton
I wanted him
Goggins.
as a bullseye for the Daredevil series.
Ooh, I'd buy that. All right.
Next matchup, the 18th seed, the first Chain Dynasty, taking on the 47th seed. Introduction to film.
All right. First Chain Dynasty, for those who don't know, is the elaborate heist.
Yep. It's the heist episode.
Is it the finale too?
No.
One before the finale.
Okay.
Penultimate. Yep. And then Introduction to Film, I believe, is in the first season. I think it's like the 5th episode, maybe, and that's also that's where Abed starts making films, and then it's also the Seize the Day professor. He wants Jeff Winger to seize the day.
Third episode.
Okay.
Some good jokes, but I mean, the first Chang Dynasty has so much more going on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love me some John Michael Higgins. I'm sad we didn't get much of him after the first season. But no, First Chain Dynasty is just, it's so great. Like, we have to plan an elaborate heist, and then Pierce is saying, "Oh, I can do a good Swami," and he's just super racist trying to portray an Indian guy.
Or fire can't go through doors. It's not ghosts.
It's not a ghost.
That is one of my favorite lines.
Well, you get a little bit more of the school board guys who are pretty funny as well, where it's like, and then you get Jeff being Ricky Nightshade,
Yep.
which is the rock and roll magician. Take a card.
Doesn't matter. So many great jokes.
you also get the plumbers with Troy and Abed with the oof boof.
Ooh, just like my wife's meatloaf.
Oh, you got plumber's acid on you.
So a runaway verdict.
Yeah, this is a
First
sweep.
Chain Dynasty. I think we're about to get to another runaway verdict.
Oh yes.
Yep. Dan, I'll let you read off the number 7 episode.
You just don't want to have to pronounce it. The
It's
number
short.
7 seed is Basic Lupine Neurology, which is a fancy way of saying Basic Dick Wolf. And it is up against the 58th seed, Analysis of Quark-Based Networking. Which
Also
is not a
known
bad
as the
episode.
Nathan Fillion. It's not a bad episode. You get Nathan Fillion cameo. What's her name from the 6th season shows up, even though
Badger
not as the
Brewster.
same. Yep. She's in it.
It's not a bad episode. It's just not
Law and
the
Order.
greatness that is the Law and Order parody
Yes.
episode, which is so done pitch perfectly, even to the closing second.
The
Yes.
closing second to all the musical cues. The person who was like dissecting the yam, like I forget what they called her. It wasn't a forensic pathologist, but it was something similar. But that she was literally from a season of Law and Order. Like, they cast her because she was previously doing that in Law and Order.
Oh no, that entire episode is fantastic. Michael Ironside showing up at the end.
That's great.
Then you get Michael K. Williams getting in his face like, a man's got to have a code.
I remind you, this is not a courtroom.
Can I object?
And just
I'm
notice
sorry, I did it for love.
And
the
there's still
concluding
so many.
seconds where it's like Starburns just died. Like, that's how a lot of Law and Order episodes end. It's like, oh, he went free. Well, he just murdered her. The end.
Sweet, yeah.
Here's a murder.
Well, and he gets a phone call, and he answers the dean's phone, which is really funny. First off, and then he's like, "I understand." And it's like, Starburns got rear-ended. Meth lab in his trunk exploded. He's dead.
And then it ends with the classic Law and Order finale. Ending
Special
music.
thanks to Dick Wolf. Yeah. So again, a runaway.
Runaway. All right. I think this next one might be another runaway. Introduction to Finality, the 26th seed. Taking on Communication Studies, the 39th seed.
I don't remember what communication studies is.
I'm pulling it up right now. So this is the sad thing. So we'll get to Introduction to Finale in a minute, but Communication Studies is, so it's when it's for the Valentine's Day dance where Jeff and Slater are together, but then Britta gets really drunk and leaves Jeff a voicemail. So then it's during Abed's like filming, and he's directing a lot of people, and then Abed proceeds to direct Jeff, and they get hammered together, and it's where you get the Breakfast Club montage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's what the B story is to that. It seems like that's pretty much.
That's where Troy and Pierce have to dress up in the ladies' business suits.
Mm-hmm.
Because Annie and Shirley are trying to stand up for them because Chang made fun of them in class for not having Valentine's gifts.
Yep. So it's one of their more sitcom-y episodes, but it's a really, because they even call it out where it's like, oh, it's like a sitcom trope where Ross saw Rachel naked or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So and that becomes a joke where Jeff goes, "All right, I'll show Britta my penis." Like, so there are good jokes like that, but it's another one where it's like, so this is what I wanted to talk about when we talked about the finale. For me, I liked the actual finale to the show, but this was so perfect. Introduction to Finality for me is like, that's everything about Community that I love. You get the wackiness, you get the heart, you get the zaniness, but then you get like the super meta where you get evil Abed coming back and like the Felco tea, even the like little physical work of like Abed taking a bone saw to the courtroom, and he goes, Winger. And like Jeff turns, looks at him, he's like, hey, and just like gestures really subtly with the bone saw, like he's gonna come over so he can cut his arm off. Like it's such a dumb little joke that plays so well. It's like, hey, come here. Like, oh, and it's just the beginning of Evil Abed. Like, I could introduction to finality is just, it makes me so happy. It fills my heart so much too. And it is a perfect mirror. The Winger speech at the end is the antithesis of the Winger speech that ends the first episode in the first season, where he's like, you know, I'm out for myself, blah, 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 blah. And this is like how much his character has changed and where he's going with that. And then you get the 6th season in a movie. Oh, I knew there was something about this episode I was forgetting. The B storyline in this episode is Troy being the truest repairman, and he's in the sun chamber.
Oh, that's right. You get that great speech from House Sparks.
You get House Sparks. There aren't any rules. And then they just, Jesus, Dennis, are you on coke?
Coke again?
Sorry, everybody. Like, and then there's a ghost John Goodman that pops up near the end of the episode.
Yep. Oh, I forgot about Ghost John Goodman.
Force Ghost John Goodman.
It was so good. So yeah,
like,
no, I'm definitely on board with you. Introduction to finality.
Oh yeah, clean sweep.
Yeah.
I think the next one's going to be a clean sweep too.
Yes.
Let's see. What is this? The 10 seed?
10 seed.
Yep.
Geothermal escapism versus the 56 seed digital exploration of interior design. So it's the hot lava episode versus one I can't recall off the top of my head.
So this is I'm looking it up right now. This is the digital exploration of interior design is the precursor to Pillows and Blankets.
That's right.
So it's where you get Troy and Abed and like John Goodman is like pitting them against each other essentially. And then the other B storyline is Subway, and it's with Keith from Scrubs. And they're trying to do like corporate espionage against him. And then I think the C story would be somebody left a note in Jeff's locker, and it was a guy named Kim who felt insulted by him.
Okay, so what I like about that episode is it's got two great jokes, at least setups for him. One is the John Goodman when he's in his onesie in Abed's board, and he's like talking to him. He's like, "Okay, can you turn around now? I feel really self-conscious, and I don't want you seeing me leave."
He had a ponytail.
The ponytail and the goatee. And the other one is after the Subway like corporate person is like listening to the tape of Subway and Britta making love. And he goes, "Oh, this is perfectly fine." Wait, no, that's something we can't stand by. And then he goes, "Okay, can someone grab my jacket? I need to go." And everyone's like, "It's just right there." You know what? I'm not going to leave now.
Yep,
it's a good one.
Got a
boner humor.
But it can't top geothermal escapism. That is Troy's send-off, and I think because in the 5th season they didn't do the paintball episode, they did this instead, and it was just so wonderful.
I think this is one of the better homage episodes because it's like post-apocalyptic Mad Max. I think it picks up some of the best elements of the paintball episode, but pushes it even further. And I think it really benefits because it does have that emotional pull under that Britta is trying to force that confrontation of how Abed feels and letting go rather than just trying to like go through a game to put off the feelings that he has, the grief that he has that Troy is leaving. So there's something that's like that gives it that extra weight and gravity that when it comes to the end, you do have kind of that nice heart, that nice push that elevates it above just, you know, a fun wanky time like some of the paintball episodes.
Yes, 100% everything to what Nate just said. This was something that like I watched it first and I'm like, oh, it felt like one of those good, well done paintball episodes, like high concept, but like you said, like Mad Max post-apocalyptic. But the more I watched it, I think the more I grew with this, the more I started to really see what Britta was saying. And like even Donald Glover, he's like, fine, you got what you wanted. Like, look, you can't fix him now. And like in my opinion, it's even for all the impressions, this is some of the best acting Danny Pudi does in the entire series.
Mhm.
Like, because he's so like emotionally detached for most of it. Like when they get to the very end where it's just Troy, Abed, and Britta, and like Abed's looking at Troy and he's like, I can't. He's like, I don't think you understand. Like what I'm seeing is real lava, and I know if the game ends, then you're gonna leave. And then they cut, and it's like, oh my god, this. I've watched this episode a couple times. I've actually cried to this episode because he's so gut wrenching during that moment. And then they actually do it very beautifully, where you see him like kind of like this camera angle, and you see him go like that, and then he starts to fall away.
The big sacrifice.
Yeah,
Yep.
like it. I feel like I was shocked how much this episode continually affected me, and hands down, it's geothermal.
All right, now our last matchup of this bracket, we have the 23rd seed, App Development and Condiments, taking on the 42nd seed, Parcells Triangle Revisited.
Pascal.
Pascal's.
App Development is one of my favorite episodes. It's the just as the last one was like post-apocalyptic future, now it's dystopian, Orwellian, Zardoz-y future with the Meow Meow beans. It's one of my favorites, so easy call for me.
Logan's Run.
Yes.
As much as I love, because the Triangle Revisit is the season 1 finale, and I love that finale. I'm with Nate. I love the App Development. So it's probably the best one of the 5th season.
God. Them apples.
I still love them apples.
Listen to my words. No, did he put mustard on? Oh,
She's got a point. The only thing, like the Pascal's Triangle Revisited, it's a good finale to season 1. Like they talk about the tranny dance, which is another really good joke. But then
Dalmatian infatuation.
Oh my god, yeah. And it's and that's a payoff to a joke. I forget what episode it starts in, but it starts somewhere in season 1 where he goes, "This better not awaken." Yeah, such a good seed. Runners. Oh, it's so funny. Well, which pays off to the very end in the gating episode. But no, I'm with you guys. This was a pretty easy App Development Condiments.
Yeah, if Pascal's Triangle went up against another episode, maybe it would advance, but not against App Development.
And App Development gave us the Coogler.
Coogler!
Another one where they pull like a creator of a television show and just gave him like this bizarre supporting character.
So funny. Does getting laid count?
No!
Like Mitchell Hurwitz is Coogler.
Coogler!
His brief appearance in that episode was more entertaining for me than season 5 of Arrested Development.
Oh.
Which I still have yet to finish because I just don't care.
I mean, that's Arrested Development walked so Community could run. You know what I mean? Like,
correct.
Yeah.
Some of
Russo's on there too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think we're
all right. Now we're coming up to the last bracket of the opening round. The number 3 seed, A Fistful of Paintballs, taking on the 52nd seed, Contemporary Impressionists.
So Contemporary Impressionists.
I'm interested to see where you guys go on this.
So Contemporary.
Remind me what that one is.
I'll tell you. Contemporary Impressionists is. I'm not sure. I think it's season 3 because it's before
season 3. It's where they pick up after the Christmas episode.
Yeah,
that's where you get the great moment where Jeff is taking medication where his ego isn't checked anymore. Yeah. So he can pull off things that he never tried before, like aviator sunglasses.
Yeah.
Dean Watson sees him. Falls to the ground in instant orgasms. Oh my god, his shadow.
Look at his shadow.
So
it's the great setup of French Stewart making fun of himself.
So funny. So it's that, and then it goes further on in the episode where and he goes, "Oh, look at this, 2 versions of Michael Jackson." Like, and it's because Abed owes so much money to French Stewart's impersonation troupe.
Celebrity lookalike, yeah.
Yeah. And so they all have to be celebrity lookalikes, and that's how it ends. And then Danny Pudi's dressed up as Jamie Lee Curtis from True Lies. Like, you have Shirley doing Oprah. You have Pierce, who really wants to be Burt Reynolds, but they keep calling him Fat Brando. I feel a little unfortunate because I feel like if this was a different paintball, I probably would have went with the Contemporary Impressionists. Like, say this is because I think of the two secondary paintballs, A Fistful of Paintballs is the first one, which is the straight Western homage.
Western, yep.
If Contemporary Impressionists would have hit against the Star Wars one, I probably would have voted for Contemporary Impressionists. But Fistful of Paintballs as the Western, and then you get the Black Rider. It's a really good Annie-centric episode.
He's network TV handsome.
Right? You're just an average-looking guy with a big chin. Like, some great Jeff lines in that. And then you get Pierce, again, being a full-fledged villain. But, like, I think, and I know Nate went a little bit earlier, that he likes the Star Wars one. I like the Western one better. I think it's more of a straight-up homage. It fits a little bit better, even with the Abed hiding behind the guy, and you get the fire, like, coming in the background. Like, I think that one works a little bit better for me. But, so I go Fistful of Paintballs in this one.
For me, I'm going to go Upset, because I do enjoy this as the paintball episode, and it does have some like nice stylized Western homages that's pulling from. But this one, upon rewatch, just kind of feels like it's repeating a lot of the same kind of steps of the last paintball. Whereas I feel like I had a little more jokes that I could hold on to with the Star Wars one that was a little bit different. But I mean, they're all good episodes, but sure. I'm gonna go big upset on this one and Contemporary Impressionists, but I think I'll be the minority vote on this.
Yeah, I'm going a Fistful of Paintballs.
You're wrong, Nate.
It was my protest.
No, he's
vote.
not wrong. I mean,
it's my Jill Stein
I love
vote.
the Impressionists. It's probably one of my like favorite, like not top tier episodes of Community, because I just love so many jokes in it. But I love the Fistful of Paintballs exploding. Yep, but no, with Fistful of Paintballs, I love the homage to the Western, and I really love the story that single individual episode tells of Annie finally, like, you know what? I've been trying to stick up for Pierce the entire time. I'm going to break.
It also has Allison Brie running in slow motion.
Never a bad thing.
Just saying.
You're not wrong.
All right, next up, this is a tough one. The 30th seed, Horror Fiction and 7 Spooky Steps, versus the 36th seed, Studies in Modern Movement. And I just rewatched both these episodes recently.
I think you should go first then.
Okay, so Horror Fiction and 7 Spooky Steps, that's where Britt is concerned that someone in the group is a complete and total psycho. So everyone gets around and tells scary ghost stories, all hilarious in their own rights. And then Studies in Modern Movement, that's where you get hashtag Annie's Move, where Annie moves in with Troy and Abed, and you get other great stories of that. You get the great musical moment with Dean and Jeff singing Kiss from a Rose.
Yep.
So these are both really good episodes, but I'd probably go probably horror fiction and 7 Spooky Steps.
What do you think, Dan?
Going between these two, it is horror. What is this full title? Horror Fiction in 7 Spooky Steps, or Studies in Modern Movement. I really like Horror Fiction in 7 Spooky Steps because you get all of them like talking about it. I like how you get. I forget who says it. It might have been. It wasn't Britta because she starts it off, but I love how they each get you get the other dialogue from the other person. But then like when it first starts off with Jeff and Britta and how Britta's the first one going about it, and he's like, yes, I'll go check, but then I'm entitled to sex. And then he gets out of the car and like immediately starts getting stabbed. And she's like, oh no, I was right. And he's like, he's stabbing me with this hook hand thing. Like more meta. And it's just, that's a very, very meta episode.
Yes.
However,
the Pierce
there's a however there.
Was hilarious.
Yes. Pierce's story. It's like that sounds like a scene from a show that we're all too young to have remembered. Like, so you were, I forget what they said his name was. So you were that guy, Salam, Pakistan. Like some of those things were really funny, but I feel like Studies in Modern Movement is the quintessential non-concept Community episode, to where every single storyline it's all not quite like Seinfeld, but every single storyline is happening concurrently. And then with the Troy and Abed, with Annie worried about how she can't fit with them, and then Britta goes off with Shirley, but not before Britta tells like, "Oh, Annie, just be loosey goosey." And then she has this monologue about how she had a friend who fell out of like a 3-story window and would have snapped his neck if he wasn't on so many mushrooms, so his muscles were relaxed. Like
falling out of the Anne Frank house, and
there, like. That leading into Annie's move, like the hashtag Annie's move, those two being zany, the like sheet as a room into the Dreamatorium, but then you get Pierce in his like Chevy Chase in his total element, just doing physical humor, trying to scoop paint back into a bucket with like a stick. And then Jeff and the Dean having a thing, just, Joe, call me Craig. Outside, I'm just a Craigular Joe. And then like it comes back on him that he was reading his email again, but like the climax is all the stories coming together, and how like the hitchhiker they pick up like goes from being on Shirley's side to being on Britta's, and like it's still something that I quote with my friend Joe all the time. He's like, "This next song's about race mixing and it's called Don't You Do It," and they're both like, "Get out!" Like, to me, that it goes. I love the horror one, but it goes Studies in Modern Movement for me, just because it's like it's so well balanced. Is a perfectly balanced episode in my opinion.
I enjoy both of these episodes. I do love me some horror comedy as well as being meta in that realm, and I think they have a lot of fun with it. But I'm gonna side with Dan.
all right.
I'm gonna say, for the reasons he cited, that balance and how it all comes together, it feels like a really well structured episode that does more with more characters.
Gotcha.
All right. Next matchup, the 14th seed, Curriculum Unavailable, taking on the 51 seed, Basic Sandwich.
Subway episode.
Curriculum Unavailable is before the first Chang Dynasty. That's when they're all in where Abed has to go to therapy. So it's similar to we talked about it earlier.
The clip show.
Yeah, Paradigms of Human Memory. It's like that one, but it's the season 3 version of it. And I forget which one is Basic Sandwich, Dan.
Basic Sandwich is the finale to season 5, where they're trying to find Russell Borchert, and it's played by Chris Elliott, the original dean, who is like started the school, and like they have to find a treasure map essentially.
Oh, it's it's like the Lost parody.
Yes.
Is that what it is? I haven't seen Lost.
Well, it has a lot of moments that are clearly parodying Lost, and then it also has that brilliant end where they thought it was going to be the end, and they're just like, "Fuck you, NBC. Here's a bunch of other shows."
Depends on what fails. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, the best. My favorite of those might have been Questlove being like celebrity beat off.
I do love just the absurdity of the school board guy who just has psychic powers that he's been hiding this whole time, and like something that he's felt like different about, and he has to like work
he's just like
courage to unleash them.
Oh, and he's just staring at the camera like, I got it. Oh, they're in a parachute 10 miles away. Yeah, I got it.
And then it wasn't.
Fine, bro.
I was thinking about a hang glider.
Yeah.
So I think Basic Sandwich has a lot of fun. Curriculum Unavailable is your stronger character piece, though.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and also you have the jokes coming a joke a second almost with that episode.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like
and
that.
John Hodgman is the site.
Oh yeah,
that's
great.
So how long have you been in Crazy Town Banana Pants?
Yeah, tell me more about this Crazy Town Banana Pants.
Oh, and also the great moment where he tries to convince them that Greendale is a mental asylum. That they've been there the entire.
Yeah. And I love because they call back to it really quickly, where it's like you get that fun camera movement where it like goes up on Troy and he's like, "I knew it," and then it was an improv. Jeff slaps him and he goes, "Stop making him make you realize stuff. These aren't even good lies." Like, I love that joke, and I love that like nobody's saying Abed's crazy. We're just saying he needs help. So how long has Abed needed a crazy amount of help? Like, for me, it's just the clip show with a little bit stronger plot, and I go curriculum unavailable as far as these two are concerned.
Same.
I'll go with it as well. I think there's something to be said about calligraphy, polygraph, this one when you get them all together in a confined space and they're just riffing off of just their own histories and secrets and things that we just weren't privy to. I think it's some of the best writing what the show does, and it's just powered with jokes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Up next, we have the 19th seed Physical Education going up against the 46th seed Advance Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm gonna shock you guys. I'm not a big fan of the second Dungeons and Dragons episode.
That's not really a shock. Compared to the first one, it's not as good, even though you do have
David Cross.
He's enjoyable.
David Cross showing. Yeah, he's enjoyable. I like the whole sub story of him and his dad playing
bridge their
D&D.
differences. I liked that, but this was one of the instances where it just felt like they were kind of chasing after what they had done before, and it just to diminished results.
And also, I was going to say Physical Education. It's from the first season, and it's probably their most traditionally written episode, like a traditional comedy, but it is hilarious still. The final show off in the pool game is just so amazing.
That's another thing me and my buddy quote all the time, where it's like, now do you want to stand here and sock, or do you want to use tapered sticks to hit balls around a cushioned table like a man? Balls like a man.
Balls like a man. Rock 'em.
Yeah. So like we literally go play pool and we like balls like a man. Like it's so, and then they have a couple, even the B story in that is really funny because it was a girl named Jenny who had a sketch of Abed in her book, but it was Danny Pudi and Whiteface. Yep. And you have Pierce going, it's Abed, but employable. Like,
why can't I be like Brown Joey?
Yeah. Yeah. It's for me, I'm with Eric on this one. It's like, it was how I talked about earlier about how, Annie's Move, that one was so well balanced. This is Physical Education was like the start of that, and it's like, and it's an early episode of Jeff like really learning how far he's come, where like, oh, it's also the episode where you get the beginning of Abed doing impressions, because you get him going up to Annie and he's hitting on Annie as Don Draper from Mad Men, and where he's like, take a pass at her, let's see what you got. Don't do that, he cheats on his wife. Put your finger in her ear. Like, I'm with Eric. I go Physical Education on this whole
thing. I'm going Physical Education.
You want to play pool? You got a gift. All right, the number 6.
I choose shorts.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that whole bit.
Down, Nick.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to do something, Dean? Yeah, eventually. Click.
Oh, and then you get the joke of him putting up his leg on the table to get the shot, and they all go, oh.
Except for Annie, who's still taking a peek. All right, the number 6 seed, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, taking on the 59th seed,
59,
Investigative Journalism.
We'll talk about investigative journalism, but does anybody not want Dungeons and Dragons for this?
No, this is one of my favorites of all time. It's so well done, and some of my favorite Pierce moments too. Just like how he embraces being the villain, and then the power that he has, and some of the line readings that Chevy Chase has in this are just divine. Like,
they're so funny.
I hump it.
Man, what if
I wipe my ass with it?
Yeah, what if I wipe my ass with it and throw it off a cliff? Like, so dismissive. But the whole thing about how they lay in, I love how it eventually comes full circle and he saves him, but it's like, cast shape change on Duquesne. What shape do you want? Fat.
It's fat. It's like, fat meal.
Go ahead and cry. Baste your chubby cheeks with tears of gravy. Like,
or you have Chang as the dark elf.
So we just not going to talk about that hate crime?
No, I'm a dark elf.
It was a great visual gag to go along with it,
and especially since they got rid of him like immediately.
Yep.
But also, the opening is so great too, parodying specifically like the Lord of the Rings prologue with the narration and everything. It's another Russo brother episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I also appreciated in this one how they don't do any visual inserts when they're doing the D&D game. It is still in your imagination. They have,
Yep.
the auditory additions with like the sound effects and the music cues and things, but it's still like a D&D game. And
which I appreciate.
one of my favorite segments of all Community is where Annie takes it upon herself to bed the tavern creature,
Oh.
Stable lady.
The stable lady who has Pegasus.
and then it just goes into like this montage of mime, and I fell off my couch laughing off of that.
And
Troy
then
taking notes.
Yeah, Troy taking notes, and she goes, and then I'd stroke her hair and swoon her for the appropriate amount of time. How much time was that again? So just for the flip side of the coin, just so you guys remember what we're voting down clearly.
Jack Black episode.
Investigative journalism is the Jack Black episode where you get one of the best things about that episode was you have, I can't even remember how the setup goes, but they literally do the introduction to the show in mid-sentence, and Dan Harmon said he had to fight really hard for that to happen, where he's like, sometimes I don't like getting interrupted. And then it's like, I can't find the
joke.
reason.
No, the joke is Jack Black's like, look, I'm not here to mess up your timing. And then it goes into.
Yeah.
And then the great reveal that he was just using them so he can get in with the cool group, which is Starburns and Owen Wilson.
Yep. And it was Jeff being the editor-in-chief of the Greendale Gazette when Annie finds out that like the dean sent out a racist text. That's pretty much the whole story in that one.
Yeah, it was a nice episode, but it's no Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
God, no.
Well, that's why it's the 59 seed.
That's right. All right, next up, Introduction to Statistics, the 27th seed taking on Comparative Religion, the 38th seed. So this is the season 1 Halloween episode versus the season 1 Christmas special.
Yes. Gotcha. So the Halloween episode is the one where you get them, they all dance up, and Annie puts on a party because it gets her extra credit, and then Jeff's trying to sleep with Slater. And that may be the funniest part about the statistics episode, where like Ken Jeong convinces him, be like, I know a move you've never tried before, and Jeff just walks up and goes, please sleep with me.
Sleep with me.
Please. You are so hot and I'm so lonely. Please do me the honor of sleeping with me. And then she acquiesces, and they do that. And then you have to go. Pierce starts tripping because he switches pills with Starburns.
And he's dressed up as the Beastmaster because he thought it would make him young, cool, and hip.
Mm-hmm.
The Beastmaster. Well, I just want to cut back to another reason why the Clip Show episode is the greatest episode, or at least one of them, just for the clip of Pierce injecting himself with a third flu vaccine.
I think that was
God.
Yeah, I don't think it was Clip Show. I think that was the second one. I think that was the one from with John Hodgman.
No, that's from
that's the Clip Show, because I watched that one.
Okay. I could have swore it was the John Hodgman one, which is another Clip Show.
Memory.
Yeah,
But anyway.
And then Competitive Religion. It's a nice episode. You got Anthony Michael Hall playing the school bully, which I love.
I will devour that performance all day. He is hamming up everything.
So enjoyable.
Where he goes, why are you going to take all the snickerdoodles? Well, you want to sound intimidating. Maybe don't call the cookie by its name. And then he staples the snowman to his head later on. And then the whole sequence of them teaching Jeff how to fight, where like Troy's like, you gotta talk like you have pennies in your mouth. Pennies.
You gotta get that force for the cry.
Yeah. And then it's like, it was what are they saying to him? Like what? Or sup? It's not a question. Sup. Like for those, that's why I actually go Comparative Religion, because you get a little bit of Shirley like wanting to disown them because she finds out they're all different religion. But that through story of Anthony Michael Hall is the bully wanting to fight for Abed's honor, and like how ridiculous it is. And then they all get into a massive melee. Like I like the religion one. That's where I go with this.
Hey, where do you go?
I feel very similarly about both of them. They're both pretty solid episodes that have some killer jokes. So I will be a tiebreaker.
Well, I was going to go Comparative Religion.
Well, then I'll go with that too, because I don't want to be different.
Bold stance.
Bold. All right, we're coming up to the last two matchups. All right, the 11th seed, Contemporary American Poultry, taking on the 54 seed, English as a Second Language. Again, that's another one of those where it's like, we could talk about the other one. I think we all know where we're going.
It makes
Because
me
American Poultry is the Mafia episode.
Right,
Yes.
it's the Goodfellas episode.
Mhm. It makes me a little sad because this is near the end of season 1, and English as a Second Language is a really solid episode where Chang finally he admits to Jeff that he's not really a Spanish teacher, and you also get your first glimpse of Troy's plumbing skills. And there's a really subtle joke that like you had like I've watched the series I don't know how many times, and then like the joke is that Jerry the plumber left out that cake and he did something else to get him into the bathroom. And he's like, I left out that cake and I knew you'd wash your hands. So he left out the wrench so he'd have to fix the sink. Like, it's such a weird little plan that like he explains away in a sentence, and it makes me really happy. And then you get Chang like destroying Jeff's car.
With the keytar.
Yeah, with a guitar.
And then we see probably Pierce's first heroic act in the entire series, where he sleeps with a real Spanish professor to make the test easy for everyone.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, the Mafia episode is so solid.
Yeah.
Was this the first homage episode, I feel like? Because
think so.
it comes before
so,
Modern
yeah.
Warfare, so I think this is the first time they adopted we're going to devote an entire episode to a style of a movie or genre. And they did it so well. The Layla montage is still wonderful.
Yep.
Oh yeah, where the entire group's stuff is destroyed.
And Abed is just feeding chicken fingers to Shirley's man and just staring at her like, is this what you want? How do you feel about this?
He's like, what would Jeff do?
No.
It might I think it was the first full episode homage, because in investigative journalism they did a MASH reference like for a while.
They hint at MASH, but yeah, it's not an entire episode yet.
It wasn't a full episode.
Well, I think this is like for me, season 1 is great, but it's really like from this point forward where it becomes the show that we really think of it as, where it took that extra level of not just ambition, but like just the meta cleverness that it came to define it. And this is where it begins that turn.
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed.
Last matchup.
All right. It's the 22nd seed, Basic Intergluten. Sorry, I had the really tiny foot on here.
Gluteal.
Gluteal.
You got the rest.
Numismatics?
Numismatics. Versus the 43rd seed, Aerodynamics of Gender.
Remind me about both of these episodes.
Okay.
So the basic episode is the Ass Crack Bandit episode.
I just watched that episode and I was already preparing myself to be upset that it wasn't on this list.
And then Aerodynamics of Gender is the trampoline episode.
Yes.
That's a great joke.
With Abed going around pointing out all the flaws in all the women.
Bitch. Like a bitch.
But
classification vicious.
Great joke with that, but I gotta go the Fincher thriller serial killer homage. I love it.
I will probably get upset, but I went Aerodynamics of Gender because I understand the Fincher thriller homage, which is great and it's funny at parts, and they bring back Starburns for this. Mm-hmm. But Aerodynamics of Gender, there are so many great little individual moments when Troy and Jeff find it, and then they find Matt Walsh, who has like the American History X.
It's gonna be amazed.
It's gonna be amazed. Like, and then it's like, oh my god, Joshua was racist, and it actually sets up the rest of season 2, I believe, where you get Pierce in leg casts for a quarter of a season, and then he gets hooked on pills, and then he gets not Andy Richter.
Andy Dick
as the little pilot. And then the other side is like the girls using Abed to like take people down. I love that episode so much.
Oh, of course it has to come down to me.
Yeah, that's why I spoke second.
You
Ass crack bandit.
Well, you don't sound like Garrett, but
No, well, no one can.
ass crack bandit.
I do
Not-
love his
not bad.
voice as
Yeah,
just a
oh.
performer. It's so
Well,
distinct,
yeah.
hilarious
that's
to me.
that's why one of the reasons I was so sad that the Model UN episode wasn't on, so we didn't get him going. Crisis alert!
That would have been one of the last 4 out.
Wasn't it revealed that Annie was the ass crack bandit?
Yeah, in the
It's
finale,
hinted.
it's hinted that she's the ass crack bandit.
Also, something I really appreciated in the finale is
Mhm.
where Chang is farting on the 4th cool,
Yeah,
and then
Wait,
he
wait,
says
hold on.
it's an inside joke.
That's an inside joke.
I was like, oh, I got it.
Yeah, because these are 2 great episodes. Ooh,
You got to pick one. This is why I was so mad at you for so much of this bracket.
I'm probably gonna go ass crack bandit.
It happens. Nothing wrong with that.
But
Because the problem is like I don't know which is why you have the A or B story, but the one with Troy just smack talking all the women on campus, it's got its moments, but it does not age well. Like I just watched it recently, I was like, okay, I get it. It's
do you mean?
Not as like the jokes and everything. It just doesn't like
it
look.
feels a bit more dated, is what you're saying. With
Yeah,
like
it's a little bit more dated, and
it's a little more sexist.
a little bit, but like it doesn't make me laugh. Like watching it again doesn't make me laugh as much as the first time. But with Ass Crack Bandit, that episode, I'm entertained the entire time. Especially like Jeff's lines, like, "Oh, I'm sorry for growing up in the '90s where I have ears attached to my heart."
Real fans call him Dave.
That's right. The real fans call him Dave.
Just again, the stylization is just so perfect,
Mhm.
and even more so now in like a Mindhunter realm as well.
Yeah, and Donald Glover's performance is great, even though he doesn't really do anything that entire episode. Just sits in a wheelchair with a blanket over his shoulders.
Well, he's
Gets up and slaps Starburst.
and it is a good Garrett episode too.
It is.
It's minor parts within it. It's like E2 pencil. And then you have Fat Neil coming in with the announcements, and it's a great 7 Zodiac homage, and it's done so
full
well.
on Fincher, yeah.
And somehow you still get the creepy with they make Chang up, but it looks like he's a really shitty version of himself, but he's facing backwards, so he has to like walk backwards, and he's like, "Oh, this churro's good in my real mouth," and it's like
That is one of the best visual gags I think in the entire series. It's
was-
just so startling.
Backwards facing Chang, yes.
it's so awkward. It's so awkward.
But the other thing with that episode is just where was I going with it? Oh, I had a thing and then I lost my point. Oh well.
No.
Well,
if it comes back, let us know. But yeah, we've done it. We've gotten through the first round, round of 64.
Oh God.
You cut them down to 32.
So yeah, that's the first one, and I think we're going to be done for at least this episode because that's 2 hours just us talking episodes for Community. So that's a lot of Community, and we're going to have
to ask for.
Yes,
for
I don't
people to listen
know.
to.
We might be able to, since we've cut it in half and it procedurally goes down half, we might be able to knock it out in one more long episode. But it's one of those things where we'll cross that bridge when we come to it because that's just that's how we work as far as recording things go. So. Across the internet from me is Clever Eric Muller.
Across the internet from me, Handsome Dan I.
And
to our left or right, or both, he's either one of the hot buns or the hot meat in this sandwich. It's writer, color extraordinaire, Nathan Zoebl.
Well, as long as my hot meat is between someone's buns,
Woo!
I'm out.
yeah, you could be done after that. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all those fun things. And as always, ramble on.
Hangers away.